Mr Bologna.
Mr Speaker, it's always nice to stand and speak to a bill that we actually agree on in the House. It's my preference to speak on these bills that we actually agree on. Mr Speaker, thanks to Bakshi for his contribution and also to my colleagues that have contributed to this bill. I'm new to the Justice Committee, so I've taken advice from my colleagues who have been members of the Justice Select Committee and will just speak around some of the issues that they have raised. Mr Speaker, I listened intently to Simon Bridges' contribution earlier, as I always listen intently to whatever Simon Bridges has to say, and I noticed that he mentioned the hip-hop tour that happened under the Labour government, and I really don't know what that has to do with anything, but I did want to point out the fact that yes, a hip-hop tour occurred under the Labour government, and yes, we support every form of performing arts and every form of the arts, Mr Speaker, and I also want to point out that the Prime Minister also took a hip-hop group on the tour of the Pacific, so I thought I'd coin a new term, and because there's a certain word starting with H that we can't use, but I thought I'd coin a new term called hip-hopcracy. Perhaps that's what Simon Bridges was demonstrating earlier with his comments. And I still didn't quite understand how he was relating it to the bill, Mr Speaker, but that's okay. I will continue on. Mr Speaker, this bill overhauls the legal services system. It is the legislative result of Margaret Bazley's review of legal aid completed last year, which found serious failings in the delivery of publicly funded legal services. This bill will replace the Legal Services Act 2000, and as I said, Labor does support this bill. Labor does believe the reforms are positive, especially the emphasis on the public defender system and the community law centres, and we are very pleased there will be a focus on quality assurance. However, we are concerned that 3 strikes will place further pressure on publicly funded legal services and will negate some of the good work that has been done. Mr Speaker, Dame Margaret Bazley's report uncovered some serious problems with how New Zealand's legal aid system operates, and we agree on all sides of the House that that is the case. And as a result, this bill is necessary to restore taxpayer confidence in legal aid, which is an indispensable part of our justice system, Mr Speaker. We are very pleased that the Public Defence Service will be expanded, a system launched by former Justice Minister Phil Goff, actually, in 2004. The Public Defence Service is a good way to meet the rising costs of fees charged by barristers and solicitors in private practice. It creates a system of salaried public defenders and will standardise a high quality of defence, Mr Speaker. It is a good alternative to legal aid. We are pleased that the government is placing greater emphasis on community law centres, as my colleague Lynn Pillay spoke about earlier, and that the Secretary for Justice will have the flexibility to utilise different means of delivering legal services. We fear that these vital reforms will be undermined by the government's ridiculous 3 strikes policy. Unfortunately, though, as I mentioned earlier, the reforms in this bill aim to curb the out-of-control costs of legal aid, criminal legal aid in particular, yet 3 strikes will incentivise not guilty pleas. This will prolong the length of trials and place extra cost pressure on the justice system. So that is what we're concerned about, Mr Mapp. I don't know what you're mumbling about, but I'm sure it's not important at all. Leanne Dalziel has previously expressed concern that many allegations in Dame Margaret's report were unsubstantiated and called on Simon Power to meet with members of the Manukau Bar who claim their reputations had been unfairly hurt by the report. We have some concerns about legal aid and employment disputes. The current system disadvantages union members because they pay $300 to $500 per year for their membership, which includes an insurance fee to cover the cost of representation for personal grievance claims. Mr Speaker, however, non-union members only have to contribute $50, placing them at an advantage. Some of the important changes that I think it's important to mention, the administration of legal services is overhauled as suggested by Dame Margaret's report. The bill transfers the administration of publicly funded legal services from the Legal Services Agency to the Ministry of Justice. The position of Legal Aid Commissioner is created. The Legal Aid Review Panel will be disbanded, and the Legal Aid Review function will now be carried out.
Sorry to interrupt the member. The time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted.